Hello everybody and welcome to another class. Do you remember that last week we learned vocabulary about jobs? So we learned some jobs, for example, astronaut, like the one we did last week. We also mentioned chef. We also mentioned scientist. And today we're doing one more. Can you take a guess about what job are we going to be taking a part in today? Come on, take a guess. You have 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go! Well, actually, this week we're going to study about doctors and nurses. Did you guess right? So, what is a doctor? Doctors are the people that help us when we get sick. They tell us what to do and they give us medicines to take. So they help us to stay nice and healthy. And what is a nurse? A nurse is the person that takes care of you while you are in hospital. For example, if you're staying in the hospital for a night, the nurse is the person that's going to give you medicines, is going to take care of you while you need it. Nurses are also the people who give us vaccines, and they check up on us when we don't have a very specific and difficult problem. We just need a checkup. That's what nurses do. So the vocabulary that we are going to learn today is related to the material that doctors and nurses use to take care of us. Do you know anything? Can you name 1 or 2 things that you remember from when you went to the doctor? Yeah? If not, I'll teach you some now. Let's go. The first word we're going to learn is first aid kit. So a first aid kit is like a box that has everything that we need inside for just a little problem that we might have, or if we fall down, or if we knock a body part, for example. So it's the place where we keep the basic material if we have an emergency. The second word we're learning today is plaster. So, for example, let's say that you are running on the street and suddenly you fall down and you scratch your elbow. Then what do we do? Well, we have to wash it with water and soap. Sometimes we can add a little bit of alcohol to sterilize it, and then we put on a plaster. We stick on a plaster so it keeps us safe. The next word is thermometer. Thermometer. So a thermometer is what they put down here, like this, or inside our mouth so they can check our temperature. If the temperature is very high, it means that you're sick and you have to go to the doctor. Now we have syringe. Syringe. So syringes are what nurses and doctors use to put on a vaccine. So they put the medicine in the syringe and then boop, they put the vaccine in. The last word we're going to learn today is a little bit difficult. So let's practice it. The word is stethoscope. Stethoscope. Yeah, it's a bit weird, right? Stethoscope. It's a bit different and weird, right? I'll show you what it is now. I'll put a picture up. So that object is what doctors put in their ears, and with the other end, they listen to your breathing and your heartbeat so they can check how you're doing inside. So if they put it here, they might listen to your heart pumping like boom boom, boom boom, boom boom. And if they put it somewhere else, like on your back, for example, they might hear how you breathe, like sometimes when you have a cold, it's more difficult to breathe. So when they listen to your breathing, they can tell if you're sick or not. So now that we've learned all of this vocabulary, let's go ahead and do today's craft. I'm sure you'll love it. Today, we're becoming doctors and nurses. So to become that, we need our own first aid kit. So inside in our first aid kit, we can put all of the vocabulary that we've learned today. So now I'm going to explain the materials that we will need to create our own first aid kit. So for today's craft, we will need 2 pieces of paper, one that's big and the other one can be smaller because we're going to cut it. Then, because we're going to cut, we will also need some scissors. Make sure that you ask your parents for permission and that they can help you if you need it. And we will also need coloring utensils like pencils, rubbers, colored pencils or markers, whatever you might need. And to decorate it, if you have in your house some plasters, for example, like the ones doctors use, or you have some cotton, you can also use it to put it inside your first aid kit. But it's not super necessary because we can also draw it if we don't have it in hand. So now, let's start with our first aid kit. Oh, and I almost forgot. We will also need some glue or something like tape so that we can stick. Okay? Now let's go ahead. First of all, we will take the big piece of paper or one of the 2 pieces of paper and we will fold it like this in half. Okay? Make sure that it looks like this. Just like this one so that we can open like this. Yeah? Make sure that it's like this. Okay? So now that we have it nice and folded, we will go on and take the other piece of paper. Because we're doing a first aid kit, this is going to be our kit, but we need some handles, like so, to grab it. So on the other paper, we're going to have to draw 2 handles for this. So make sure that your drawing is big enough so it can go around, but not too big that it will go outside of the paper. So not too big and not too small. Just like this. I will give you an example on my paper. You can use a ruler for this, so you can measure more or less how long your handles need to be. So I want mine to go from here to here. If I measure that, that's going to be exactly 8 centimeters. So my drawing has to be 8 centimeters long. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to see I need to make 2 handles. So I'll make 2 drawings. Now we have to draw a semicircle like this one. It doesn't have to be perfect. And another one inside. Make sure that you don't draw it super thin like this or super thick like this, because if you draw it like that, we won't be able to handle our first aid kit. So more or less it has to be this thick.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a rainbow, but without all the colors.
So at the end, you will end up with two shapes like this. Make sure that they are big enough. Okay? So now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut around it. We're going to be very careful that we don't break them, because if we break them, we won't be able to use them and we will have to repeat them. Remember to ask your parents for permission to take the scissors and ask them for help if you need it. Now let's go and cut our handles.
One. And two.
Now we have our two handles, like so. Make sure that you keep this paper so that we can reuse it. It's not okay to throw all of this away. So now it's time to stick our handles, one on each side of our first aid kit. So if we open our first aid kit, one handle is going to go on one side and the other handle is going to go on the other side. So we have one here and one here, and we can take it with us. So now it's time to stick them. Remember that you can use glue or tape or even staples, but remember to ask your parents for that. I'm going to do it with staples. Make sure that they align more or less so that we can carry them out. If they don't align, it would be very difficult to grab them. Now that we have the basic shape ready, it's time to decorate the outside. So, do you know what's the symbol for a first aid kit? It's actually a red cross. So here we're going to have to draw a big red cross so everybody knows that this is our first aid kit. I'll show you how I do it. I will start out with a basic outline of my cross. Make sure that it's big enough that everybody can see it. You can also do it with pencil first, so that you make sure that your cross looks nice, and then go over it with a marker. Now that I've finished with the outline, I'm going to color inside. Make sure that it's vibrant red, like the one I'm using, on a white surface. That is the color of a first aid kit. It definitely looks like a first aid kit, right? So now that we have our big red cross, we're going to put it on the other side and we're going to write, for example, in my case, Belen's first aid kit. So everybody knows that it's mine. In your case, if your name is Maria, you're going to have to write Maria's first aid kit. So make sure that you write down your name. I'll show you an example. So look how it's written. You have to write down the same thing, but instead of Belen, you have to write down your name, just like this one. Now it's time for the fun part. We're going to open our first aid kit like so, here, and we're going to paste the items that we have found in our house, for example, cotton and plasters, and the rest we're going to have to draw it. So we can draw a stethoscope, we can also draw bandages, we can draw a thermometer. So anything that you think that it's very important to have in your first aid kit, now is the time to draw it. I will show you my example. Here I have some cotton and a plaster that I got from my own first aid kit at home. So I'm going to stick them down in my kits that we just made. Let's go and see how I do mine. Now that I have all of my items pasted here, I'm going to go ahead and draw the ones that I'm missing. For example, here I'm going to draw a big stethoscope. Now I'm going to color my stethoscope. And lastly, here I'm going to draw a thermometer. After you finish your drawings, make sure to color and decorate everything that you have inside. Now, I'm going to label all of the things that I have inside. For example, this is a plaster. So I'm going to write down plaster. Just like so. And I'm going to go and do the same with the rest of the objects. Now that I have all of my items drawn, pasted, and labeled, I'm ready to take my first aid kit. So now, finish it, close it, and you're ready to go. Now you have your very own first aid kit, and you can use it to take care of your family and of some of your friends or some toys that you may have in your house. For example, a teddy bear. I'm sure it will be so much fun to play pretend like that. Make sure that you keep it because next week we're going to use it. So keep it somewhere safe. And I'll see you next week. Mwah! Bye bye!